Hello, once again, my sweet, beautiful, innocent human beings, and welcome to another episode of this show that I'm doing called Manic Mindfulness. Hey, how you doing? Tell me, you can speak out loud. You can, it's fine. You might be at work, you might be on the toilet, you might be on the toilet at work, but either way, you can... If you think hard enough that this is truly a conversation and not just you listening on your listening device, then I'm sure somewhere I'll be going about my day later on in the week after you've been listening to this. Well, while you're listening to this later on in the week, maybe you listen to it day one. Hey, that's pretty. That's pretty committed. Thanks, man or woman or anyone. But yeah, I'll be going about my day, and I'll be like, "Hi, how you doing?" And you'll out loud on your toilet at work just be like, "I'm great, thanks. How are you?" And I'll feel shivers. I'll feel shivers down my spine, and I'll be on the toilet at work. What a coincidence! And I'll be like, "Oh yes, the conversation." I don't I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. Hi, welcome back. I'm doing a thing again. Music. Yeah, I want to talk about music because music's great, and I think everyone, everywhere, all of the time, knows in one form or another, no matter what kind of state of being you're in, no matter how you choose to look at the world and everything in it and your relationship to everything in it, no matter how cynical you are, no matter how crazy spiritual you are, no matter how often you simply just go down to the pub and sink tinnies, which is a pretty good life if you ask me. I'm not gonna do it, but hey, as long as you're not drinking Stellas and beating the missus, then more power to you. But yeah, no matter what kind of relationship you have with your state of being and everything around you, I think we can all agree that music is fucking good. It's pretty good. And I want to talk about our relationship to it and its relationship to us, and the kind of emotions it can evoke from us and why it does that, and what that means for our listening to it and the creation of it. So strap in, and if you're on the toilet, I hope you're finishing up by now, because we're about 3 minutes in. So I mean, no, I'm not. I was about to out someone I know who takes ages on the toilet. I won't do that because that's rude, but needless to say, it does put like a time incursion, I guess is what I'll say. A disruption is probably a better word. It does disrupt the flow of if you have plans with them. That's how long it takes. So hey, I can't judge anyone. I'm a simple man who doesn't in my opinion take too long doing any of the nasty business. I feel like we started last week's episode with me talking about alluding to... No, it wasn't the start, but definitely last week I had a thought that was definitely drawn towards, the lavatory. I guess if you want to, use a bit more of a simpler term. And now I've got a virus and threat protection warning. Let's start the episode and talk about music. I don't want to get a virus. Sound has now been changed to going into my headphones that I'm actually using while I'm recording this, so that I don't get any disruptions. Because I would not want, say, a Microsoft virus warning to come up while I'm trying to talk about the fact that we all use the toilet. I wouldn't want that to happen. And I couldn't imagine that happening. But if it did, I'd be pretty upset. But guess what? During my time that just before I started this podcast, during my time, and there's been plenty of times like this where I've been really getting into the meditation recently, I'm able to let it go. Wow, 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 wow. Sorry, I don't want to push meditation on anyone, but I kind of do. And this is what it does. It spreads like a disease. I've been getting absolutely indoctrinated recently. And indoctrinated is 100% the word. And I don't use it with the negative connotations that are usually come along with that word. Indoctrination, you think of, for me, the first thought that I go to is like Nazism and any kind of dictatorship or fascism or totalitarianism, which are all basically the same thing. I just want you to know that I know words. So the negative connotations that go along with that is that's what kind of usually comes around with that word. But today I'm using the word indoctrination with a massive smile on my face because, my God, through my listenings of various Duncan Trussell Family Hour episodes and very recently, as in literally yesterday, I am now obsessed with Ram Dass, and I found that on Spotify there is a podcast you can listen to which has over 200 samplings of his lectures and talks and all these kind of things. And through, obviously, if any of you have listened to, and my phone's not on silent, I'm just not prepared for any of this. But it's okay, I suppose. So if you are someone who's listened to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour or watched Midnight Gospel, which is the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, just animated pretty much, you will know about his podcast, how he's obsessed with Zen Buddhism and all these different kind of spiritual practices revolving around the philosophy of Buddhism. And probably his biggest hero is Ram Dass. And I've listened to a lot of episodes, listened to a lot of stuff about Ram Dass. And you know when you build up a thing in your head of like everyone telling you, this person's great, this person's great, this person's great, you almost want to, when you go into a situation of then, in this case, listening to that person. But this can also work for the same as if you're going to meet someone. If you're told that someone's amazing, of course there's a majority part of you that's like, oh man, I hope they're amazing. But then the worry of the brain comes in, or the ego comes in, where, we always want to be different in some ways. And so when everyone tells you something's like, great, and this person's going to be great, and they're going to do this, and they're going to say all these wise things, and you're going to be like, wow, my mind's blown. There is a part of you that goes into that and goes, man, fuck that. No, there's not these people they're all just insane. They're all being hypnotized. I'm going to go, you go in like cynically, you go in with denial already in your head. You're like, I want to come in here, I want to listen to Ram Dass, this is my specific example, and be like, nah, man, this guy's talking whatever. He's pretentious. He's trying to tell me how to live or whatever. All these things that the ego tries to tell you. And I held these reservations in my head, and I didn't listen to any of his specific stuff. There's even a podcast on the Duncan Trussell Family Hour with Ram Dass, and I've even refrained from listening to that, and I don't know why I let the ego kind of rule out the potential for me to hear some groundbreaking stuff. And finally, yesterday, I'll take you on a little journey before we get into... by the way, I'm opening this with a tangent. This isn't even about music, but it's just something I really want to talk about. We will get on to talking about music, I promise. But yesterday I was at work, and everything was going wrong. There was all these different problems, and people who came in were being quite rude and all these things. And it's all, all these little things that, in the same way that last week I tried to say, like, do a little bit every day to, add up to a better whole. Little bad things can also add up to a whole with the opposite effect. Little things can keep happening where if you were walking down the street and you crossed the road and you tripped on the curb slightly, that's a slightly little bad thing that happened to you. Maybe someone saw you and you get a bit embarrassed. That's a slightly little bad thing that happens to you, but it's not going to ruin your day. But imagine if you then proceeded to, in turning around to realize what you tripped over, imagine then losing your footing and like tripping again. And then imagine getting your balance from that, and the bag that you had around your shoulder swings forward and comes back and like hits you in the nuts, or also in the crotch if you are of the other variety, because I've heard that still really hurts as well. And that happens, and then like you're realizing a lot of people are looking, and you straighten yourself back up, and then you're like, okay, this is a lot of little bad things, but it's still not gonna ruin your entire day. You're still able to be like, look, this is bad, but let's just get through it. And then you get to your next place, and you trip again, and your bag hits you again, and you trip again, your bag hits you again, you trip again, and it keeps happening over and over and over again. Eventually, all these little things that if they were individual would be pretty much nothing that's happening to you, eventually these become giant things, and you start thinking that the universe is trying to ruin your life, and you get angry, and and the rage comes, and there's no amount of practice that you have been doing to this point, whether it's a lot or whether it's none, that you can dip into to stop it in that moment. You are completely blinded by the rage and the anger and the need to release that somehow. And that's exactly what happened to me yesterday. I got to the point where I was in the back and nobody was around, and I was just dealing with a little inconvenience, but it was right after everything had built up, and I just dealt with this inconvenience in the worst. I basically just I had this item that I should have been delicate with, and I just thought, fuck it, and I just threw it against the wall, and it fell behind a bunch of stuff, so that I'm like, okay, now I don't have to deal with it, it's gone. Which is an incredibly silly and stupid way to handle a situation. Like, what would have been better is to just take a moment and just relax. And you know what, after that I kind of realized this, and so I did, and I actually meditated while I was at work. This is the first time I've ever done this. We have people at work who are religious and who take the time to pray, tense. They take the time to pray and kind of do all these things. And while I'm not religious per se, I will say the spiritual different podcasts and lectures and stuff that I'm now listening to, as I say, are indoctrinating me, and I've still got this smile on my face because it's yielding good things. It's bringing about positive results in my life that I can actually see and take away from it. And this is the example. So I actually decided, what is the difference between someone believing in a God that they need to pray to however many times a day, and so we respect that and give them that space, even in a workplace, and the need that I have to sit down on the floor, straighten my back, close my eyes for 5 minutes, and focus on the breath and focus on the feelings and let things go that need to be let go and calm myself. What is the difference? There's nothing really. It's still, both of them are bringing about positive results for the person engaging in the act. It's just that one is more firmly established as a thing that you have to respect and allow. So I gave myself that time, and I left my job about 4 or 5 hours later with the biggest smile on my face. I had friends and everything messaging me, and I just realized, I'm having great conversations with my friends on this train ride back, I'm reading a book, I'm doing all these things, and I suddenly realized, I'm like, this could have been such a bad day. I could have let that awful rage and anger just completely take over everything, and I didn't. And the meditation was part of it, but also what was part of it is that I finally, through that meditation, got over the ego as well inside of that, and I listened to Ram Dass. And I want to actually give the name of it because it is really great. So the podcast is called Ram Dass Here and Now. There's over 200 episodes. I highly recommend checking some of that stuff out and listening to it, especially when you're at work. I listened to it while I was at work, and it really made life great. And yeah, like I say, I'm now being indoctrinated because I was wrong. The ego, as it often is, was completely wrong, and Ram Dass is incredible and a selfless being He's not someone trying to tell you how to live your life. He's someone who is trying to give you these different ideas and practices that you can do, that you can. Again, it's all option. It's all up to you. And that's what I kind of love about a lot of this spirituality stuff that I'm slowly getting into and learning all these different things about, because my God, there's a lot out there. It's what I'm slowly, learning is about how, you know, like, give me a moment, let me compose this thought. It's what I'm slowly realizing is that what I used to think about spirituality was that it's these, you know, silly, wacky, yogi, hippies, I guess is the best word for it. You know, it's this stigma that, you know, they're just these people who either take a bunch of drugs or just sit and meditate, or probably both. And all they do is that their perception is being warped by delusion, I guess I used to think it was. And I guess a lot of people think that. And yeah, it's just this delusion of like thinking that there's greater forces in the universe and blah, 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 blah. It's none of that. It can be if you want it to be. You can start breaking out into that, which is more of the strictly religious side of it, and kind of pre-established, you know, structures that try to navigate the different spiritual planes that people are trying to navigate. But what's great about it is that it's slowly, what I'm realizing is by just being open and really taking in the stuff that these people that I'm listening to are saying, is that you're not creating truth. You're not rewriting everything around you. You're not saying, like, for example, when you're meditating and they have this idea of controlling the breath and realizing there's energy in your body and there's energy around you, and energy that can be dispersed and can be held in, and you can do all these things and you can control it through just being attentive to your body. You're not creating energy in your mind. It's there, or at least the perception of it is there. Like, the ability to perceive energy throughout your body is there. You just need to be in a specific state of mind, and mostly being guided through a meditation to realize that it's there. And I'm not even saying that the energy's real, but the ability to perceive it and think that it is there is real. So that's kind of why I love this spiritual stuff now, is that I'm realizing that it's, I'm not creating truth. I'm realizing what's there and finding a way to interpret things that seem to be uninterpretable. I don't even know if uninterpretable is a word, but I just made it if it's not. And yeah, which is I'm going to end this tangent, actually get on to talking about music. I'll, if you're listening on YouTube, there's timestamps below. You'll already know, you can skip ahead of all this if you want. Yes, but I do want to bring up a quote from Ram Dass that I listened to yesterday that I really enjoyed. And it was in the middle of a lecture about karma yoga, which is something that I would love to do an entire episode about one day, because wow, that was the most recent podcast episode released for this Ram Dass podcast, so I highly recommend it. It's great. But one of the things he said in it was that you bring whatever truth you bear to the situation, and that situation is anything. When he talks about a situation, he just means life in general and every little thing that happens with life. And it's true, you bring whatever truth that you bear, you are always bringing that to every situation. And your truth can be not anything you want it to be. It has to be true, but your truth can be discovered and can be, interpreted in any way that you want it to be. You just have to be willing to reinterpret what is around you, and what is around you is truth. So yeah. That was a nice tangent. There was less joking around and terribleness. That was, if you couldn't tell, like I said, I meditated just before this podcast, so I'm feeling especially, spiritually buzzed, if you will. I'm feeling calm and positive and great. I don't want to force anyone to think that, by not meditating you're a bad person, or by not meditating you're missing out on something, but it's like they say, Ram Dass says it as well, everyone has to find their own way to unlocking their spiritual side, to awaken, as they call it. Everyone has to awaken on their own time. You can't force someone into it. So don't worry if you're not there yet. You will one day. Trust me. You will. Whether you know it or not, one day you will awaken, as they say. And it sounds ridiculous, but it happened to me. And it's currently happening right now. So, yeah. I don't know why. I just think that stuff is lovely. I really do. I think it's simple. I think thinking in these ways is very positive and healthy for the mind. And I think more of us should do it, because I really think we don't know what we're missing out on. I don't know why we're so reluctant to it. I was. I still am sometimes, you know. Sometimes I'll still trick myself and the ego will take over and go, oh, you don't need any of this, you're fine. Just, you know, it'll try to tell me that I need to live in reality, that I need to see things as they actually are. But that's kind of what I'm doing when I'm not listening to the ego, when I'm doing things that most people don't do. Because if you look around, we're not very happy nowadays, and we're not very at peace with the world around us, and the world around us is getting more and more confusing. So I feel like these kind of practices and listening to these kinds of people and taking in what they have to say and really trying to implement it into your own life can yield positive results. So yeah. Let's talk about music. Let's actually talk about the subject of this podcast. Something I'm very bad at is sticking on the subject. But hey, there's no shame. There's no shame in that, because, you know, sometimes you'll go off the beaten path and you'll find a cool thing, which I like to do in real life. I like to go on a trail and then go off of what I have planned. You'll find your way back. It's fine. It's fine. And you'll see like a cool thing. Let's stop. All right. Music. What's so great about music? Everything about it. Everything about music is incredible. It's so good. I think music, truly, nowadays, I think music, as I was just saying about how the world is getting so more and more confusing and people aren't connecting to these truths that we used to know and other people have figured out, but we refuse to listen to because we're being perpetually kept in this state of denial and, you know, just going along and trudging along in this world that is not making us happy and fulfilling us in the way that it can if we choose to reconnect to what we used to know and the truths we used to hold dear. I think music is one of the last gasps of an art form that is still able to, whether you know it or not, connect you to that stuff. I think it is one of the last true art forms that is able to still be crazy and reinterpreted, and that reinterpretation and that constant changing of it is encouraged. Like, if you look at movies and TV and all these other things, from the mass, it's being encouraged to stay where it is. It's being encouraged to stay in this corporate, capitalistic state that just wants to capitalize on wherever the money is, without really delving into the art behind it. The art behind it, and the emotions it can elicit from us, and the things that it can say about the world around us, and the things that it can say to a person individually and maybe a group, things it could say to anybody. That's not encouraged. Because the majority audience wants to go see a Marvel movie, which is understandable. I grew up with Marvel. I used to love it, but now I don't really care. I see it as kind of very shallow, and I think a lot of us can agree that it is shallow, even if we still enjoy it. I've spoken to so many people, mostly adults, who, when it comes to Marvel and, any kind of, superheroes are taking over the major thing, but even like action movies and, just kind of the same old stuff that's in the cinemas every year, and you forget about it the second you've walked out the cinema and it's left you with nothing. And they just go, well, it's entertainment. I just see it as entertainment. And it's like, okay, yes, you can be entertained. Yeah, that's true. You can be entertained by a thing and in the moment be like, that's good. But don't you want something that lasts and something that says something? Something that can make you feel a certain way? Something that can make you feel like it was like an event that you saw? Doesn't that sound like so much more exciting? And you know what I think still does that is music. I think it still does. I think even though it is still driven by those same things, it is where the money is. by some sheer coincidence or force of its will, the money is still going where intrigue and interest and difference and reinterpretation and artistic value lies. And not always, of course. There's a lot of Ed Sheeran songs out there, but what I'm saying, even an Ed Sheeran song has something deeper to it in different ways. Like, I think the biggest example that I can give you for trying to say what I'm trying to explain is music videos. If you ever watch a lot of music videos nowadays, are they still not just these weird, crazy, avant-garde, like, how many directors who have come about nowadays who are really kind of off the cuff and different and unique and strange and make these art house films that are so peculiar and intriguing and different? How many of them start with music videos? Oh, is that dog gonna bark again? Damn, I feel like every week that dog's gonna go off. The next door neighbor dog that goes crazy, and you couldn't hear it last week, so I'm gonna hope you hear it this week. But if not, that's gonna be a weekly thing now, where we try and listen out for the dog. We'll see when the dog tries to interrupt. Sorry. So yes, what I was saying, music videos, are they still not crazy, and we still just accept it? Like, if you try and sit someone down and say, hey, average person, we're gonna watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You get about 10-15 minutes in of this movie that has so much to say about the world in this slow, methodical, and strange pace. Boring. They've already flicked over and they're watching a rerun of Friends again. But if you sit someone down and say, hey, here's a 3-minute music video of a song that you like, and the music video is really weird, they'll talk about it. They'll watch and they'll listen, and they'll be like, whoa, Coldplay is monkeys. I don't understand. What's happening? Why is Coldplay monkeys? This is weird. We just accept it and we take it and we still give it money. And I think that's great. I really do think that's great. So where has this all kind of come from? Where, I'm not much of a planner, if you couldn't tell. I just kind of get on here, I hit that record button, and the spiel just rolls out of the mouth. It's all nonsense. And I try to capture it best I can to make it coherent and make a point, but as you can tell, it's pretty difficult. Yes, so I actually have a thought for the topic this week. I actually planned a little bit and was like, right, I'm going to record about this today. So the music came from the fact that the other day, I was... How do I put this in the best way possible? Let's say that I was in an altered state of mind. Let's say that. I was in an altered state of mind. One where I was more kind of taking in of the world around me, and I was out in nature. I was walking along these canals and these forests and these different places that were really... really beautiful. It was towards the end of the day, the sun was kind of setting. I was in a great kind of mindset for, I don't know, just strange, interesting thoughts. And I was kind of walking along, and I thought to myself, man, I've got my headphones in, but what I'm listening to right now, I think I was listening to a podcast or even like some lo-fi or something. And I was like, man, this really isn't doing it for me. And not... you know when something just feels off? You know when it's like when you have a craving for a type of food, but you don't know what kind of food you want. But that craving's still there, so you just try to figure it out. And that was what it was. I was craving a different kind of musical stimulus, if you will, that better fit the mindset I was in, and was, would be a gateway for me to get deeper into that mindset. And so I remembered a song that my friend introduced to me a week before, and there was just something about it. I couldn't remember the name of it, and then I finally did, and I found it, and it was oh god, am I gonna forget the name? I remember the name, but I wanted to actually say the artist name so I don't sound like a Philistine. It's that song "Bad Habit" by Steve Lacy, which I'm sure you've all heard on your TikToks. But I'd never heard it before. I was just listening to it, and it truly was just an incredible experience to just listen to a song in that environment I was in the mindset I was in, and I was just absolutely taken away by it. I felt like I was tripping on a psychedelic. I really felt like the world around me disappeared, and I was so focused on this song and every little aspect of it, and I kept listening and listening and listening and repeating, and it was just, honestly, just a wild experience. And it was just by listening to this song, and the song had the ability to make me think about my past, make me think about my future, make me think about every single line of every single sung line in it, and who was singing it, the way it was sung, along with all of the instruments in the background and the way they were being utilized and how they were all coming in one another and gelling with one another and all these other things. Just every element of the song was just completely gelling with me, and it was like a meditative state, but like enhanced to hell. It was like meditation on drugs, I'd say. That's probably what meditation on drugs feels like. Just you feel like you're unlocking these different thoughts that you haven't really unlocked before. You kind of knew were there, but you hadn't had an avenue to kind of go through them. And it did. I felt like I was going through the filing cabinets of my mind, and it was bringing a massive smile to my face. If anyone was coming past me, they would have thought I was a crazy person. But I was truly just taken away from it and taken aback by it. Not even taken aback. I was just, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? Because that kind of implies resistance, like as if it was like, whoa, hang on. No, it was like a welcoming taking away of my consciousness, I suppose, maybe. I don't think I'm describing this great. But anyway, and I realized about that, and I was thinking about it yesterday. I realized that, yeah, there's certain songs that we all gravitate towards, and there's different stuff for everybody. But they always have the ability to connect to us. Like, no song is just a song. Even down to the most basic elements of, if you're in a club, I'm not really someone that likes drum and bass and, going to a club and just listening to whatever, but if I have enough alcohol in my system, I seem to get into it. But I have a friend that's obsessed with that, and I've always used to kind of judge. I always used to think he was shallow. I always used to think, oh, he doesn't want to listen to, like, music that's kind of beautifully composed with live instruments and written musical theory elements that go into it, and it's all recorded in a beautiful place, and you can hear all those elements coming together and all that time and effort paying off to create something truly astounding to listen to. But again, that was the ego and the judgment, and what I was failing to recognize, which I'm now recognizing, is that his liking of what I used to consider more simple music, more basic, I used to think it was like a landfill that just trudge with like different elements that are just grinding it all up, like Wall-E, how he takes the rubbish and like just grinds it up and makes it into these squares and then builds like towers with it. That's how I used to judge like different kinds of music that I didn't like drum and bass. I used to think it's just an easy whatever, someone goes into their program like Pro Tools or Audacity and they're just pressing buttons. Why did I say Audacity? That's not what I meant. I meant Ableton. They're going into these musical production softwares and they're just pressing buttons, trudging it out. But what I failed to realize is that music is still connecting to him. It is. It's still connected to him. It's not just... Because if it wasn't connecting to him, then why would it make you tap your foot? Why would the rhythm of it, why would the melodies make you kind of want to get up and dance? That's a connection. That's, if you're sat down in complete silence, more likely than not you don't really want to get up and dance. Maybe you do, but more often than not you just sit in silence. So that music is connecting with you and changing your state of affairs. So it's connecting to you on an emotional level, on a physical level. And that's what I consider the more simplistic music of drum and bass. Think how much more complex and different these other kinds of music can get. And I think a great example of that is Bad Habit by Steve Lacy. I think it's the best song that's been made this year, if it did come out this year. I closed the tab, I shouldn't have. I believe it came out this year, didn't it? Yes, released this year. It's the best song I've heard all year that's been made this year. I haven't heard anything better. I haven't experienced a connection with a song like that at all. The closest thing that I'm experiencing at the moment is the song "Your Love" by The Outfield, but that's from 1985, so that's not a contender for this year, I'm afraid. But it's a great song. Listen to it; it's great. But yeah, so what was the connection? What was it? This is what I've been trying to understand, and you know what it is? It was just, I'm an over-analytical kind of person, if you couldn't tell. I overthink a lot of things, and I'm way too... what's the word I want to use? I'm way too analytical about the meaning of things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be when, like, for example, you go to a movie with friends and they just had a good time watching the movie, and then you're afterwards rambling on about the different things that each thing means. And in those moments, you probably go, maybe this doesn't matter to somebody else, and maybe I'm just irritating them. So let's, these thoughts being kept to myself doesn't diminish them at all. So that's just that. I'm just going through my own therapy right now. Sorry to involve you in that, but yeah, no, there's I feel like we could all do that, like take moments. It's this idea of, again, like Ram Dass. I'm going to pull up another Ram Dass quote. It's this idea of, he said, if you listen quietly, you will hear your dharma. The quieter you listen, the more you'll find your part to play. And what I love about that is that, again, you're not creating truth. What you're doing is you're realizing truth. If you're quiet enough, your brain's going to keep going. And that's what meditation does. If you're quiet enough, your brain's going to reveal to you who it's trying to tell you it thinks you are. And if you listen quietly enough, some of those thoughts you'll realize are false. Some of those thoughts are, again, different parts of the brain that are trying to tell you certain things. Some of those parts are the ego. Some of those parts are jealousy. Some of those parts are judgment. And, like I say, I mean, hey, I was just judging myself. Maybe people do love when I ramble about stuff. I mean, you're here listening to it, so you enjoy it on some level, or you're just a really good friend who's like, yeah, I'll support this, fine. Either way, that's very kind of you. So whether your intentions were true or not, God, I'm just pulling up all the quotes. There's another thing that can better explain what I'm trying to say. This is a quote by Duncan Trussell. He asked the question, is it better to be actingly loving than authentically numb? And I think that's great, right? Like, it's the idea that, yes, you can talk about these ideas of truth and listening closely to discover truth and all these different things. But yes, sometimes in life, is it better to be actingly loving than authentically numb? Because I feel like, yeah, the more you can connect to some things, there are different elements that can make you feel a bit numb. So sometimes it's better to, put in a bit of effort, a bit of pretending to make a situation better and, and kind of put more love out there, even if maybe your brain is telling you that you don't really care about this, because it could spread joy. But obviously don't go so much to the point where you become fake and it takes over. That's the danger, isn't it? The danger is that you could, allow in falsities, and they could then take over the falseness. I guess falsities is a better word. The falsities could then take over, and they would become truth. So yeah, I'm talking myself out of my own point. Yeah, no, that is a good point. I guess it's all just about delicacy, isn't it? It's all about learning and, being aware of, being aware of the different elements that add up to what makes you you, and kind of tampering. And I guess it's a journey. It's always, it's never ending, is it? You're always being attentive to who you are and trying to be a better person. So, like, yeah, maybe we should stop trying to find a closure to that question, and maybe we should just keep asking it of ourselves. Maybe. But yeah, so music. So let's talk about... So I was listening to Bad Habit, and I was realizing it was connecting to me on so many different levels, and I was overanalyzing all these different things, and I realized that's what made it so beautiful, is that there's so much to it. So kind of the running through line of the song is this idea of the line, I wish I knew you wanted me. And you can just listen to it and kind of groove out and be like, yeah, that's, yeah, good song. But what I chose to do was really try and think about what this song was about and why it was evoking so much of a connection from me. And what I realize is just that simple through line, it's the most repeated line of the song, just that simple line means so much, because there's many different contexts to it. So the song opens with a woman singing that line, and she's saying it as if she's whispering, as if it's like the last kind of gasp of the end of a breath. It's very kind of quiet and coming out in the end. It sounds almost kind of tragic in a way, and then it's completely taken over by the lead singer Steve Lacy coming in, and it's still in the background if you listen. So he takes over and he sings it a lot more with a full kind of chest voice, and is like really kind of committing to it. There's no real falsetto or breaking away of it. But if you listen in the background, she's still there. If you listen, she's right at the top end, right at the top end of the spectrum, I suppose, if you want to say. And you can hear her right at the top, just barely breaking through. And isn't that fucking beautiful? So the idea is that there's this woman. It's the idea of, there being somebody who is so right for you, but neither of you really realize that you want to be with each other. And afterwards, when it's too late and you realize, you kind of look back and you're like, well, I wish I knew. That's the line. I wish I knew you wanted me. And it goes both ways. She's singing it. He's singing it. They both wish they knew. Steve Lacy's the main one singing, so he's the one who is, he's the one who didn't know, in any sense of the word, that she liked him. He's even throws the line, he thought that she was too good for him. He even I love that in the first, I guess it's kind of the chorus. I love that the first time he says, thought you were too good for me, my dear. So it's like a conscious thought that he had. And then he doubts himself at the end of it. In the second chorus, he says, were you not too good for me, my dear? And the way he says it is like, were you not too good for me? It's like it's like a thought process. You're kind of, this is what it is. This is what I feel like music's great, because the way it comes out, it's not a story, it's not a written passage, because if it were, it wouldn't make any sense. You'd be like, why is this book repeating itself over and over again? Why are these lines not connected and formulating a proper structured paragraph? It's a poem. And poetry is seen as very stupid nowadays, but guess what? Every time you listen to music that has words in it, more often than not, it's still poetry, my friend. Stop resisting it. And that's what it is, because music is an outlet for thoughts that we all kind of have and things that we all kind of go through, and it's how you connect with one another. Like, why do you think there's, girls screaming at a Harry Styles concert? Yes, it's because they all think he's attractive and has money, but also it's because what he's saying and what he's singing and the way that he's singing it is a reflection of things that every one of his fans are feeling. And that's how fandoms arise, is that it's a connection with the material through similarity, or understanding, at least on some level. And so that's why I think this song about habit is so incredible, because in analyzing those kind of things, I think we've all had those moments. Why do you think I don't have the true statistics on it, but surely we can all agree that love songs in one form or another are just the predominant form of song nowadays, right? They're the predominant structure. They're the biggest kind of industry, if you will, for music nowadays, right? Songs that evoke those feelings around love, because is that not what is the most important thing in life, really? Is that, think about it. Why is every song about the girl you wish you knew liked you, or the girl that broke your heart, or the guy that is the person of your dreams, or the guy who has broken your heart? Either, no matter what different kind of ways it is, this is what the majority of songs are about nowadays, and the reason they're making all this money is because that's what we're all connected to. We're all going through different stages of trying to not only discover ourselves and find love for ourselves, but love for another person, and we're all drawn to that in one way or another, no matter how hollow or shallow that love you want it to be, whether it's just one night stands or or you want it to be all the way to falling in love. Everyone's striving for different elements of that, and that's what we see as important. So of course it's the biggest industry, because that's the connection that we want to make. I given an example of where I work. You're able to plug in your phone to speakers that go out across the main area where customers come in. I plug my phone in and I kind of play these older songs, because I really like the philosophy back then of like, these different kind of discovery. It always seemed to be discoveries of things, right? That's what it used to feel like. Music from like the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s is music of discovery. It's like, it's like you discover a love, you discover your connection with a guitar, if you will. You discover, it seemed to always be about discovery, and all these things were new. So like every song was so unique and approached its philosophy in different ways. And that's what I love about the music. So I play that quite a lot. And, I'll see people come in, and what's cool about that kind of music is everyone can connect to, because it was, again, about discovery. Everyone has a different thing to connect to, because that music discovered like everything that we had a connection with really back then. It was the first kind of generation of music to discover, all the different connections we have with different elements of our life. And so those songs are special. They hold places in our heart because they were the first to do it. So even if you come in and I see these young people come in who definitely have no idea what half of these songs are. They've never listened to It Must Have Been Love. They've never listened to oh my god, let's pull up the actual playlist so I'm not just going off the top of my head. Sorry, I listen to a lot of music. I can't really have it off the top of my head. But yeah, they've never listened to, like Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. They've never listened to Harlem Shuffle by Bob Earl. They've never listened to Kiss from a Rose by Seal, or 25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago, or fucking, any of these songs. They don't know any of these things. Like, they've definitely never listened to Lovely Day by Bill Withers or Old 45s by Chromeo. Like, they're coming in. They some of them even they're listening to their road band tunes as they come in. They're playing it out loud from their phone as they come in. And yet still, you'll see them and they're bopping their head and their little smile comes to their face, and they're connecting with it, even on the smallest level, like even just briefly tapping a foot or kind of nodding along with it. They're connecting with it, and you see that more often than not with these older songs, and that's why I love them so much, because I feel like they really do connect with us on fundamental levels, because like I say, they were the first to discover these different connections with things, so we hold them more dearly. So that's why I like to play that music. And that was one way that I kind of saw, there was a little part, again, the ego popped up of like, there's a little part of you, I try and shut it out, but there is a little thought there that's like, yeah, people are liking my music, people are enjoying my, what I enjoy, which is hollow and egotistical, as I say, and it's not something that I'm, consciously, outwardly thinking when I put these on, but the thought is there. I shut it out, but of course it's there, because the ego will always have something to say about every situation. You just don't have to listen. And then I unplugged my phone because I was getting a lot of messages through, and I thought, I don't want to ignore people. I kind of want to, talk to my friends and people that I enjoy talking to. So I unplugged the phone and I plugged back in the little system we have. And then another colleague came by and they plugged in their phone. And the music was completely different. It was basically Top of the Pops, I don't know if that's still a thing. But, it's just like things that are just popular on the radio, kind of the herd music, if you will, as what I want to call it with my judgments. The herd, the music of sheep, if you will, if you're going to be as judgmental as my brain is putting out right now. And yeah, there was a lot of repeats. It's Ed Sheeran, it's KSI, it's all these things that don't really connect with me, and that's my own pretensions coming into it, obviously, because I just see it as kind of corporate and shallow, and instead of it being like a true connection to the things it's trying to say, I feel like they are a lot kind of designed in boardrooms. But either way, that was what was connecting with him, and still, like I say, it wasn't really connecting with me. But guess what? Look around, people are coming in the store again. People are bopping their heads. People are singing along. So it's that idea of music connects all of us, even at the levels that you may think that another genre is shallow and is, like it doesn't hold the same weight and emotional connection as your genre does. But that just means that's for you. Like at the end of the day, music of any kind, in order to be effective and listened to, has to connect to you, whether you want it or not, my friend. It will connect to you. The only way that you can truly listen to it, even if it's on in the background, you put it there for a reason, because it connects to you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that music is so much of a complex avenue, so complex that in fact I don't think I'm even going to cover everything that I wanted to talk about today. So much of a complex avenue that just because, let's describe it as like a street, and maybe this street has many different alleyways and avenues and other streets branching off from it, and everyone is traveling down that main road in the middle of the street, because the only way you can get to those other places is by taking that main road to get to those turnings. So whether you're walking, driving, whatever you're doing, and that main road, that main street, is music as a whole. And all of the different genres and all of the different levels of connecting to those different genres are all those different, all those different avenues, all those different alleyways, those different streets. You can take the turning whenever you want. You can go down whatever street you want. You can go down different streets every day. You can go down the same street every day. You can, you can try and run through it and get through it really fast. You can try and speed through it driving, or you can walk really slowly through it. You can take a stroll. You can stop on a bench in any of these places. You can do whatever you want to do. But here's the thing. All of those streets that branch off, all of those alleyways that branch off, all of those avenues that branch off, eventually lead to a complete dead end. They eventually lead to a complete dead end. And that's not a negative thing, that's just what works for this metaphor. They completely lead to dead ends. And the only way to get back to where you need to go is to go back to that same street. Now, you may, as you're about to turn down the street that you like, as you're about to enter the different realm of music that you personally see as above the rest, and hence you're turning down that way, you can see across the road, or further down the street, or even right next to you, you can see somebody else completely different from you. They look completely different, they act completely different. You can see them going down a different street, and you may want to look at that person with animosity. You may want to judge them. You may want the ego to come in and say, oh, my street's better than that street that they're going down, that alleyway, that doesn't have nice buildings down it. That's just blank and shallow. It's just walls and bins. But mine is this street I'm going down has great architecture. It has the sun shines on it in a specific spot that you wouldn't get down that street. And it's better than the rest, so I'm going to take that. And sorry for them going down that street. Okay. You can think like that. But guess what? You've got to come back to that main street, and you've got to come back and see that person again. You've got to see all these people that are different from you again, and you have to do that every single day. Every time you go on that street, you always have to start out on that main street to take the turn you like, and you always have to come back to that street to go back to that main street, because it's dead ends. There's nowhere else to go. You have to go back. So take that as daily life. What are you going to be doing every single day? What are you going to be doing every time you're walking down that main street to get to where you need to be? And I feel like this is completely branching away from music now, but let's still try and keep it in that realm. If you couldn't tell, this is branching out deeper than I originally intended, but it's turning out to make a point, so that's nice. And convenient. So let's think about that main street that you have to go on every single day and see everyone that's different from you. Are you going to be judging them for the rest of your time on that street? Are you always constantly going to be letting the ego take over and see yourself as better and, and let that affect your mind every single day? You probably can. You'll still function. It won't kill you, but it will sour your experience. like, if you give enough people animosity and, again, judgment, then people are going to look back at you and feel the same kind of things. They're going to feel resented, so therefore they're going to resent you. And that means that walk down that initial street that you have to take every single day becomes so negative and so closed off and singular, and you're looking at everyone else around you who's different from you, and you're judging and they're judging you, and you can't wait to just get down your street and shut everything else out. Does that sound like a positive and good way to be existing? You know what I'd rather do? I'd rather smile at people who are going down those different alleys. I'd rather go up to them and ask them what makes that alley so interesting, and maybe connect with them, maybe walk down the alley myself. And even if I don't particularly enjoy the alley, I have walked it and I know what it is now. And maybe I'll go down something that I thought I would hate, and then suddenly the sun shines on that in a completely new way that I didn't even realize. Maybe there's architecture I didn't even know was there. And maybe the people that I'm going down it with are some of the best people I've ever met. Maybe they're awful. Maybe they are bad people, but you can leave. You can go back to that main street and go back to comfort, or you can, again, just find something new with different people, a different situation. But either way, you've given yourself the chance to experience that. And I think that's kind of a way that we should all be living our lives in its totality, is that we shouldn't be closing ourselves off to the things we already know. Again, we bring our own truths that we bear to every situation. Do you want your truth to be one street? Do you want your truth to be one avenue? Do you want your truth to be one singular way of thinking that has been established by your drive to keep things the same and remain in comfort? I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I want to experience new things. I want to open up so that I have the opportunity to experience something greater, even with the risk of inconvenience, even with the risk of difference. That, even with the risks, full stop. Even with the risks, like, isn't that what falling in love is? Isn't that what finding an incredible person that you're attracted to and you start a relationship with? Isn't that what it's all about? Opening yourself up, even while the risks are there. I'm sure we've all been in a relationship or fallen in love and had everything about it be amazing, and then also be crushed and taken away, and we felt like a part of our very soul was ripped from us, and it's so tragic to recover from. But I bet you're listening to this and you've recovered. I bet you've recovered and even grown from that experience. And now the next time you open yourself up, you are in a better position to have that opening yield better results, right? What's the word I'm trying to find? Okay, let's put it in layman's terms instead of trying to sound smart. I'd bet that that is true. Oh, hello, dog. My dog's come to say hi and remind me that the podcast is nearly ending. Thanks. So I feel like there's still a lot of things I didn't have to say, so maybe I'll do a part 2 about music someday. I'm definitely going to do a separate episode about lo-fi. Originally, this was going to be about lo-fi, but I realized, I was like, no, I have more broad things to say about music in general, and I'll dedicate a whole episode to lo-fi, because I really do feel like it's a topic that I would love to discuss, and I think it's very interesting of what it has to say about the people who enjoy it. So, yeah, thank you very much for listening. I'll leave you with music is the truest art form that still connects to us, and we still allow to connect to us on every single level. And I'd say, more than just connecting to it, listen, take in what is being said and what is being sung to you, and even if there's no words, what is the melody, the rhythm, the beat. Take it all in and really listen to it and see what that can uncover within yourself, and then take that same practice and do that with your mind in general. Listen attentively. As Ram Dass says, you listen quietly enough, you'll find your Dharma. you will. I'm still struggling to, fully listen and hear what truth has to say, but I'm certainly putting myself in more positions where I am actually open and willing to listen. And that feels really good and exciting and new. So, thank you very, very much for listening. I forgot to say, I was meant to say this up top. I had somebody ask me if the intro, the soft little guitar riff at the start is like some royalty-free kind of music that I found and blah blah blah. No, that's me. That's something that I've been sitting on for ages, not really finding a place for it to be. I tried making it into a song, but I couldn't put words to it and a rhythm to it and a melody to it, and I tried to expand on it and I really couldn't. It was just this kind of thing that was stuck in a musical purgatory of where is the place for this? Where can I use this? And I was fully accepting of the fact that, hey, maybe it's just something that exists and I don't have to do anything with it. Maybe I can just appreciate the fact that I was able to compose it and just leave it at that. But then I started this podcast and I needed an intro, and it fit like jelly inside of a bowl. That's not a metaphor. I think I wanted to say that it gelled well, but then I said fit. So then the gel was in my mind, so then I thought jelly. I suppose jelly can fit in it, but yeah, jelly does fit. You know when you make jelly from scratch and it perfectly molds to the bowl? We find a way to make it work. And that's what I did with that guitar, and that's what you can do with every different element that you've come up with. You may find a bit of yourself, or find something about yourself, or discover something, or create something that maybe doesn't have a place now, but hold on to it, my friends, and the universe will provide you with a way to implement it. I promise you that. And have a good old time. I'll be back next week if you care to listen again. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I really appreciate it. And yeah. Bye. Yeah, bye. Oh, we're really bad at intros, aren't we, dog? I mean, outros. I mean, we're bad at both, but, yeah. Oh well, time to get on with stuff. Oh, I'm still recording. Bye!